They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hey guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host.
Me. Hey, how are you?
Melissa, I'm doing good. How are you?
Just super good.
I can tell you look like you're having a great day.
I am.
All right, we got a pretty good show today. We have Brian Briscoe. He's the co-founder and partner of Four Oaks Capital. They acquire properties for syndications and does a lot of things. He's starting his own little mastermind, so I'm sure we'll get into that. Tribe of Titans. And Brian, we're really excited to have you on the show, and I hope you can bring a lot of value to our listeners, especially some of the younger guys.
I'm going to try, so, if you need to steer me in one direction or another to do that, definitely let's hop in.
I'm really interested in the tribe for sure.
Yeah. The tribe is something that, I've always enjoyed teaching and helping other people, in a previous life, as I call it, 20, 25 years ago, I wanted to be a college professor because I like teaching so much. And, we've had a fair amount of success in the real estate industry, especially with multifamily. And, a lot of me, with what we do syndications. So we're raising private capital, other people's money, and we use that to buy apartment buildings. And I found myself enjoying the calls with the people who are asking me how do you do that, Brian? What would you suggest I do? How can I do what you're doing? And I realized, early on that I enjoyed those calls a lot more than the, hey, this is what we're doing. This is our investment philosophy. Do you want to invest with us type stuff? Those were the types of calls that I was supposed to be making for Four Oaks, is getting the people who are interested in investing. But like I said, I enjoyed those so much more that, eventually we started a podcast, and part of the podcast is teaching people how to do it. And, that podcast, is kind of the feeder, kind of the I guess, lead magnet, so to speak, for our educational community, centered around, investing in apartments. So, rough sketch, that's what it is. And it's what I spend most of my day, either doing or working on.
Sure. So who's your target audience for this mastermind that you're starting? Who you're looking for? The brand new person that's never done a deal? You're looking for the rich old guy that has more money than sense? Where does it fall on that spectrum?
Yeah, we're looking more for the people who want to do, people who want to actively invest. And, from the people who are in there right now, we're closing in on 200, people in the group. I would say, maybe, 10 to 15% have closed on an apartment complex, of considerable size, so right after we record this episode, I'm going to hop on with one of our members that recently closed on a 32 unit, and we're going to talk about that. But really, the course is designed for people who are just getting into multifamily, just they want to buy an apartment and they need a little bit of help, so we have a lot of, educational material that's aimed towards, the person who is starting. Very helpful if people come in with, fix and flip experience or like single family rentals or whatever. It's very helpful, but not necessary. And, we're also, since we're syndicators, most people, when they're looking at buying apartments, tend to go the same route. If you have to put, 20,000 down to buy a single family home, you're adding, one or two zeros onto the end of that for what you have to put down to buy an apartment complex, right? So, most people don't have that money. So we also teach people how to raise capital. And, this is how to talk with other people. This is how to, build your own credibility first. This is how to market yourself, how to, do all of these things to be able to raise other people's money for their own deals, and so anyway, that in a nutshell, and that's actually, I didn't keep that in a nutshell. That was kind of a long answer to a short question, but
no, I
that's
think
what Tribe does.
Good. I'm wondering, so these people that are coming into your mastermind, I'm sure, once you go through quite a few, you see them come up with some of the same problems. And I imagine that some of those problems are, hey, I don't know how to do it. Right. And then I bet you that equally, or maybe even more so, the other problem would be their own mindset and getting the self-confidence, eliminating the limiting beliefs. Can you talk about that a little bit? What are you doing to help these guys figure themselves out?
A lot of it is I do talk about my own journey, and when I started, I spent 20 years active duty military. It's January 22 right now, and so I've been retired for 4 months now. And I started picking up single family homes and whatnot as I was active duty and renting those out. And it didn't take me long to realize, okay, number one, proof of concept, this works. The properties I picked up were all appreciating year over year, and I was tracking the values on Zillow, and I'm like, wow, I've got a ton of equity here, and I was getting a check every single month from the properties, right? So I had proof of concept there, and I wanted to go bigger. And, big to me was like a fourplex or a sixplex, and my own mindset didn't allow me to think bigger, and I was listening to other podcasts where they're talking about, hey, so-and-so just closed on 120 units. So-and-so closed on 80, so-and-so closed on 200. I'm like, that's great for them, but this is me we're talking about. And I had to go through some sometimes painful and sometimes just very clear moments of just real clarity where I made some big mental leaps, and a lot of that came from being around other people who were doing what I eventually wanted to do. My plan up front was, I really want to have those 100+ unit properties. But in order for me to get there, I'm going to have to buy a 5-plex first, and then maybe a 12, and then maybe a 20, and then maybe a 40. And there's nothing wrong with that path. It's just that I was restricting myself with my mindset. So, some things that we talk about in there are, hey, you can do it, but this is what it's going to take. You can't just, hey, I've got 5 single family homes right now. I want to buy an 80 unit apartment complex. Okay. That is too big of a jump for most people to really do successfully without, running into, a brick wall. But what I like to do is say, hey, this is what it takes to get there. You can do it. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to help you prepare, help you to get to where, you are very confident when you're calling the brokers, instead of being like me, where it's like, hi, my name is Brian. I want to buy an apartment building. Okay. What size apartment building? I don't know. Just, I want to buy an apartment building. That was probably my first call with the broker. Just didn't go over well, but
he didn't go out of his way to help you find that perfect deal, did he?
Yeah. And amazingly, didn't call me back, didn't answer my calls or my emails. It was just like, I was woefully underprepared. So, as far as mindset shifts, I talk about the mindset shifts. I talk a lot about personal identity, how you see yourself, and, the corollary to that is how other people see you is going to be a big deal, and going from where you are right now to being somebody who's credible and somebody who your friends and family or the people you meet can look at and say, yeah, I'll invest with that guy, or yeah, I'll put some of my hard-earned money to work with him or her, so that's really the goal. And you're right. There's a lot of mindset issues, a lot of, internal workings that are where everyone's essentially holding themselves back in a lot of ways.
Sure.
Totally agree.
That's a ton of information. I think that a couple of the key points are that you're putting yourself around other people, and then because it demystifies the whole apartment syndication and apartment investor. When Brian, and Brian does apartment syndications, and Brian's just a regular guy because we're interacting on the normal basis, then that kind of helps you. And even for regular real estate investing, single family homes, that was kind of the aha moment for me is when I got around these other dudes who were just regular people doing good things. It kind of unlocked it for me. The second point I want to point out is it's a really good goatee for only being out for 4 months.
You know, I just had it trimmed too, but I had a lot of terminal leave as well.
Okay.
So yeah, my last day in uniform was August 17th. So
okay,
you know, my official retirement date was October, but I actually just had about 2 inches trimmed off of it. I let it grow for, since August, September, October, November, December, 5 months and change. Sorry, I had to pull up my fingers to count that, but
that's all right. You can work multi-million-dollar real estate deals in your head, but you got to count the years on your fingers. I
mean, the crazy thing is I have 2 degrees in math, and sometimes I make really simple arithmetic errors. It's like 5 times 3 is 25, and people are like, don't you have a degree in math? I'm like, oh, shoot, 15. Gosh.
They give them out to anybody. So what was it that brought you to, I know you said you just wanted to go bigger, but what was it that made you decide to take the leap from your single family investments to something bigger?
I really made the decision, if you understand the military retirement system, you get 0 retirement benefits, at least people who came in when I came in. They've changed it now, but you get 0 retirement benefits, up until your 20-year mark. And so at your 20-year mark, you get a pension, and it's about 1/3 of your take-home pay, is about what it is. And probably about 4 years before my retirement, I was starting to think, seriously about what's next for me. I'm eligible to retire at my 20-year mark. I got 4 years. I'd always wanted to do something in real estate. And I started putting a lot of thought and effort into deciding what that next step would look like. And incidentally, I had a boss that would, that would really, not really chastise, but he'd kind of get after the Marines when they were getting out if they didn't have a solid plan. He's like, you're leaving a good, solid, job, where you have everything taken care of, and you've got no plan for your future. And I remember, hearing him saying that to so many Marines who were getting out, and realized, man, I've got 16 years. I have 0 plan. But really, I knew I wanted to be in the real estate field. And I didn't want to be a broker or an agent or anything like that. Fixing and flipping was okay. That would have been acceptable, but I really wanted to own the real estate. That was what was in it for me, is I really wanted to own the real estate. And I looked at a lot of different paths to how can I own a lot of real estate. And, when I started looking at, okay, single family, how many single family properties is it going to take for me to replace my annual income? The answer was a lot. I think the number was like 60, based off of, the typical house in the market that I was looking at. But yeah, multifamily, I stumbled upon it. I accidentally downloaded a book by Brandon Turner, where he talked about, buying a 24 unit. I literally accidentally downloaded the book, but I was on a deployment and I read the book, and all of a sudden it was like, I can do that. I can do a 24 unit, that's something that I can do. I mean, everything he says he did, I can do, and that kind of really got me thinking about multifamily. And I started, binge listening to the podcast, and there are a couple of, YouTube channels out there where people would teach you how to do it. And, in the evenings, I'd go onto YouTube and just check those out, and eventually got into coaching. But really, to come back to what your actual question was, it was my exit plan from the Marine Corps. It was, I have 4 years before I'm eligible to retire. I want to have the option to retire, and knowing myself, I knew that I wouldn't get out of the Marine Corps if I didn't have a solid exit plan. And so when I started down the road towards multifamily, I was not 100% convinced that I wanted to get out at my 20-year mark. I was still kind of a, let's see how things are going type thing. But started doing multifamily. I got into a coaching program and a couple of different masterminds that also really helped me. And started getting a lot of traction. And the more and more traction we got, first deal, second deal, third deal, we've closed on 10 properties. 9 of those came while I was on active duty. The 10th one came a month ago. But yeah, we've closed on 10 multifamily properties since. And like I said, as I started getting more and more traction, it's the grass on the other side of the fence just started looking greener and greener and greener, and one day I remember, hypothetically, metaphorically looking down at my feet and seeing brown grass, I'm like, it's time, it's really time. And so anyway, that's what led me to it. It was my exit plan from the military, and it was probably about 3 to 4 years in the making. And, we just hit the end of a year. And so I've been getting my tax stuff ready for my accountant. And I made more from, our company, Four Oaks Capital, last year than I made from, 10 months active duty as a lieutenant colonel. So that's where you can get with this business.
And all of that money came without any hardships or trials or frustrations. It was just
rainbows and unicorns. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was easy. It was just, click a button and hey, we just bought a property. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no is the answer. But I know you knew that when you asked. But it was difficult. I put a lot of time into it. Essentially, at one point, when I realized how much I would have to commit, how much time I'd have to commit, I literally stopped doing everything else. I put a fence around, family, I'm still going to take my kids to their, baseball or basketball practices. I'm still going to go to church on Sunday. I'm still going to participate in these activities, but I literally cut everything else out. I stopped watching Netflix. I stopped playing stupid games on my phone. I stopped, playing. I used to like to play the guitar, and I literally made the decision, put the guitar up on its hook one day and didn't pick it up for 2 years, 2 or 3 years after. But I had to make the decision to literally cut out everything that was not necessary and convert that time into working in the real estate business. So just by doing that, go ahead.
I just was going to say, I think that's a super important thing to highlight, because we meet a lot of people who want to do real estate, right? I want to do real estate. I want to get involved. And then we say, okay, well, here, you're going to need to do this. Well, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. And I think that the difference that I see between the people who start out and take action and start becoming successful and the ones that don't really comes down to where they're choosing to spend their time. If they're not willing to sacrifice some of their leisure activity or all of the leisure activity for learning a new skill, which it is definitely a skill. It takes hard work, dedication. You have to learn, you have to build your own knowledge, to build your confidence, to be able to help other people solve these problems, whether it's in single family investing or apartment syndications. You have to put the work in, and nobody can do that work except for you, especially if you don't have lots and lots of money to jump into. But hearing you acknowledge that you were cutting everything out, that's what I did. I know Melissa did that too. There's very little time for leisure activities when you're trying to build an empire.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey. His 7 Habits book was, very monumental for me, and it has been over many years. And one thing that I very distinctly remember from that book is he's talking about scheduling. He's like, you don't prioritize your schedule. You don't take what's on your schedule currently and say, this is most important. You do the opposite. You start with your priorities, and you put your priorities on your schedule, and then let everything else fall out, and that's really what I had to do. Is I had to make, building an apartment investing business my priority. And obviously wasn't going to touch my family. I wasn't going to sacrifice, family time. Incidentally, most of our properties are in South Carolina. My wife's family is her grandparent are in South Carolina. And so we would go on vacations to, you guessed it, South Carolina. I'd drop her off at her cousin's house or grandma's house or aunt's house. And, she'd spend time with her family, and I'd be looking for apartments, So, it was something where if I wasn't, doing something with my kids, doing something with, church, doing something with, my day job or the military, it was likely that I was doing something with multifamily. I was listening to a podcast. I was learning how to underwrite, or I was talking with the broker or underwriting my own deal. And depending on where I was in the process, I just kind of scaled, and I was always looking at the next step. What's the next step I need to take? And that was a question I asked myself, probably hundreds of times over the last 4 years. And it really, really helped. It was just that the whole process is big and can seem daunting. But I always ask myself a question: what are the next 3 things that have to be done? All right. And I'd think of it, or I'd write it down, and then I'd just choose one and just start doing. But I think a lot of times in the process, that's what really helped me was, okay, a lot to do. There's so many hundreds of things that I should be doing or I can be doing to do this. What are the 3 things that are next in line? I write the 3 down and just start doing one. So that was really it. So
I really like that. Brian, I know you have a hard time deadline coming up, so I just want to make sure that we give you the opportunity to tell our listeners, hey, where they can go to reach out to you if they want to learn more about you specifically, if they want to hear a little bit more about either your apartment syndication stuff or the mastermind. Where can we send these guys?
Yeah, so our website is Four Oaks Capital. That's really our investment website. So if you're looking for, to invest with us, Four Oaks Capital, the podcast we run is called The Diary of an Apartment Investor. And, the website is diaryofanapartmentinvestor.com. And then our mentorship / mastermind is thetribeoftitans.info. So those are the websites. And then if you want to, hit me up, Brian Briscoe at fouroakscapital.com.
Awesome, Brian. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
I took down what are the next 3 things and start working on one. That's something that I think can definitely help me. I struggle with time prioritization, just like every other successful or busy person. So thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Brian.
We look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.